Welcome everybody. I'm going to give you a tour of accounts reconciliations. This is going to be a very introductory view, but I have a limited amount of time. But there's some advanced features that we could certainly spend a couple of more hours on, but let me get into the very basics. I'm Courtney Allen. I have been with interRel for going on 5 years. I'm right around 4.5 years now with the company, and I'm a member of the planning practice, and I've been doing work with accounts reconciliations as well. Thank you for joining me today. interRel is a 5-time winner of Oracle's BI and EPM Partner of the Year. We've won several awards, 2019 Oracle Global and North America Partner of the Year. We have recognized experts in this industry, in total 6 Oracle Aces. We have 10 of the best-selling books in Hyperion, Essbase, Oracle BI, and EPM Cloud. And we have a full range of services ranging from strategy to consulting to training. We're very big on educating. We have a number of resources that you should tap into. We have a weekly educational webcast. We have the book series, Look Smarter Than You Are. We have monthly virtual conferences. Check out our YouTube Play It Forward videos. They're very short videos that give you a lot of good information about things that you may be interested in, whether it be FCCS or something in the EPBCS, the planning application. Take a look at that. There's a lot of good resources out there. And just most recently, we started the interRel Finance News. It's both website and email distribution. So jumping into account reconciliations. Okay, very first thing is, what is a validation? What is a reconciliation? Reconciliations are a validation that the balance in an account is correct. And that could be across all different types of reconciliations, whether it be a balance sheet reconciliation or P&L. Could be your consolidated financials versus your GL. It could be balance. It could be your GAAP, your stat, your IFRS, things you might be doing system-to-system reconciliations. So this is a purpose-built tool that can handle a lot of different types of reconciliations that you may need to do. It also has a good set of compliance or features to help you make sure things are secure and your team are following things and following policies and making sure that everything is in compliance. There's a transaction matching component to this. Using automation, you can look at high volume files, transactions, and do matching across one-to-one or one-to-many files, and it does it very quickly, and it can be incorporated into your reconciliation process and make that job much easier for those people who are busy doing that tedious work on a daily basis. Give that to the robots, let the robots do that kind of work, and make your job much easier by employing the capability found in transaction matchings. Challenges in accounts reconciliation, the process. The number one non-data related delay in the close process is this activity. Some honest questions you can ask yourself is, what percentage of the time are you spending doing account recs? Are you sure you're doing a complete job of looking at account reconciliations? Is your tool of choice Excel? Are you emailing information back and forth between your team members? Are you sure that you're actually reconciling all of your accounts? And so basically the result is you have limited visibility to your process. You have a limited reporting capability. You don't always know if you're reconciling all of the accounts. There could be some lost reconciliations in the process. And so there's a high risk in this process. It could be that things aren't in compliance. So, there's just problems all around with a manual process of that nature. You have incomplete information, you have audit risks or audit issues that could arise because of your limited visibility into the process, understanding whether things are being done in a standard way across all of your teams. You can't be certain of security or if things are in compliance. So you have basically limited governance over your process without a tool that's purpose-built for this. So account reconciliation addresses this. It enables an automated way of doing account reconciliations. It provides governance and real-time status reporting capability, and it addresses the security and risk concerns. So account reconciliation basically is a global process that you can implement for your organization. It gives you a central place to do this activity. It reduces risk, providing real-time visibility into the performance of account reconciliations. It ensures all reconciliations are properly qualified. It helps companies streamline and optimize performance by automating certain reconciliation tasks and supporting risk-based reconciliation cycles. And you can integrate it with your transaction systems. So you can bring data in directly from EBS and things of that nature, different systems. So I'm going to talk about some of the key components that are sort of a core to the functioning of the application. So there's a very important term that we'll use that's called formats. And what formats are basically, it's basically account types. It's what you get out of the box are roughly 21 pre-built formats like accounts payable, accounts receivable, a bank reconciliation, prepaid expenses. These are formats that you can take and customize for those specific types of accounts. And so that's very key to this. You need to first define the formats that you will be using, and then you can define the profiles. And so a profile will basically point to a format that will be used as the computational component of this account and how things will be reconciled. And it also will identify, some additional information about this account, like who's going to be responsible for it, some instructions about how to do a reconciliation for this particular account, what types of additional information you want to capture about the account. You can capture it here in the profile. So if you put the format together with the profile, you basically can create a reconciliation document. And so a reconciliation document is really a document that's used at period end to do the reconciliations. It's a snapshot in time when you create that reconciliation based on the profile and the format. It will create that and it will be static. It will not change. The profile can change. It changes with the organization. As the business changes, you might need to make changes to your profile. Maybe different people will become responsible for doing the reconciliations for this particular account, or perhaps the instructions need to be modified on how to perform the reconciliations. Different questions you might want to set up that need to be answered by the preparer or the reviewer. Those things can be added later, so it's not set in stone. So it's a very dynamic thing, profiles as well as formats. But the reconciliation itself is pretty rock solid. It won't change once it's created in a period. You can't change it. So let's move forward. If you find that your organization has a situation where you're doing a lot of things manually in Excel, if you have a need to make your process more efficient, you want to spend more time doing value-added analyses of the results. You want more visibility into your accounts that are, key accounts that have, that could become an issue if things are not managed. You want to give visibility to those. If you need real-time status over the reconciliation process, or if you're currently in the on-prem version of this application, if you're currently a user of that and you want to move to the cloud, then account reconciliation is the tool for you. Let me take you into the application itself real quick here. So what we see here is the home page. And here on the home page, you can see the actual current period that we're working in. And the users, the preparers, will receive an email notifying them that the reconciliation cycle has started. So that will prompt them to come to the system and begin their work. So when they come here, they'll see the status. They can take a look at the announcements. They can see here, just at a click, you can see the announcements, any other information that the administrator wants to make available to them. They can see immediately the things that they need to work on. So this is a very nice feature here where they can go directly in and work on the things that are due today that they need to begin working on. A couple of the main destinations that the preparers and reviewers will go to in this system are in the reconciliations lists. So if you want to look at the list of reconciliations, you can click on this icon here. Okay. Let me show all of the reconciliations real quick here. So this could be hundreds of accounts that you're managing across your organization, or thousands or tens of thousands. All of those reconciliations will appear in this list. One of the things that you can do within the list is all sorts of reporting. Essentially, you can slice and dice your data a number of different ways. Right here is a search bar where you can just type in, the partial name of an account. You can just type that in there and it will search through the list very quickly and find accounts that match that criteria. You have available to you pre-built lists or lists that you create personally that you've saved for yourself. So these are lists that you can choose from that will change the look of this view of the list. Essentially, it will change the filtering criteria. It will change perhaps the columns that are visible to you. So it's more geared towards the types of accounts that you're working on and the types of information that you want to see up front and be able to kind of slice and dice with. You have the ability to add additional filters. So if I wanted to, say, add an additional, let's say I want to choose the format. I want to look at a particular type of format. I already have that here. It's set to fixed assets. So that's the format that I'm using. I can change it to accounts payable and also bring in accounts payable types of accounts. So you can add as many filters as you like. You just, continue to create filters to select on. You can add to the columns. So if I want to add an additional column here, I can go to the Actions menu and choose Select Columns. And let's say we add the prior period balance to this. I can scroll down and find we have so many different attributes and metrics we can choose from here. But I want to pull in the prior balance. Let's go back to balance here. Here's my prior balance. I want to look at it in the functional currency. So I'll bring it over to the right and I can move it up in the column order if I'd like. So I can just, modify this to suit my needs as the preparer to make it easier for me to do my job. So I click OK and I can see now I've got the prior period balance here. next to the current source system balance for the period. And I have the unexplained difference. Okay, so it's just very basic, just showing you how you have the ability to modify your view and you know, be able to do quick reporting right here in the system. If you wanted to export this to Excel, you have that ability to do that here. If you wanted to make a modification, you can do that in bulk by choosing the set attribute functionality to go across. If I wanted to change the risk rating on the fly for a group of accounts, I could do that very easily. One key thing to note here is that there's this account ID. So your GL account might be 11101, but that account is being managed across your organization. So this company code 101 gives it a unique identifier so that that account can be managed in this reconciliation, and a different company code account by the same name could be managed by a different preparer. Okay, so that's the reconciliations list. Another key destination for a preparer might be looking at the matching list. So these reconciliations are specific to those types of reconciliations that make use of the transaction matching functionality. So it might be clearing account where you're taking a file of debits and credits and doing a matching against that. So that would be one type of transaction matching process. Another might be taking a look at a point of sale system versus the bank information. So you have two files that you're pulling together there to do matching. So all of these are just different types of matching reconciliations. And again, you have the same sort of features available to you. You can search across these, you can set filters, you can use pre-built lists. And as I mentioned, lists you can save your own custom lists, or you can use the pre-built list that was created by the admin. Okay. Another list that may often be used, especially for new users, is the work list. And so the work list is it's a very simplified view. You don't have the ability to change the filters here, but these are filters that are available to you to select on and say, you know, I want to choose the high risk items and see those specifically. So it's very simple. It's a good starting place for a new user. It's like you have everything in one place that you need to work on, and it's geared to you specifically. You have the ability to see any kind of reassignment requests. So if someone's on vacation and they need to have someone else do the reconciliation for this month, you can see here the reassignment request allows you to approve that, so that that reassignment of the reconciliations will take place. Essentially, it will put in it'll be put in the name of Maria instead of Laura. So these reconciliations will become Maria's responsibility. So that kind of a process can be managed here. So yeah, work list is a very, very easy, very simple way to look at all of your activity. Let's jump back to the home page again. So another key feature here that you can make use of is the dashboard. Here under dashboard, we have the overview. And so the overview kind of gives you a real-time view of where things are right now in your process in the current period. So you can take a look at these graphics in a number of different ways. Right now it's set to format, but I can look at it by account type. I can look at it by risk rating and so on, or by organizational unit. And all of these graphics are basically hypertext. If you click on them, it'll give you a listing of basically the reconciliations behind those numbers. Okay. Another type of dashboard is the compliance dashboard. And the compliance dashboard really kind of gives you the ability to look at how your organization has performed over time. So you can see, you know, these are the users here in the list. You can look at it by organizational unit. So you can see how the various organizations have done over time. You can look at the individual user. You can say, okay, here's my AP preparers. They've had some rejections. They've had, you know, a number of items that were late, and you can look back at a prior period and see how well they did. You know, they could see, you know, how things have happened from period to period. Okay. So you've got dashboards. You have other things here that you can use, like reports. Okay, reports are really kind of broken down into two sections. You have your period end reconciliation reports under reconciliation compliance, and you have those that are more geared towards the daily transaction matching activity. So you can actually create additional groupings. So you can have custom groupings for your organization, but you know, the ones that come out of the box basically are the reconciliation manager. These types of reports are out of the box type of reports. You have like your balance by account type. You can choose a different format for creating that report. So you can either render it as PDF or HTML or Excel. So if I choose Excel here and I check the box there, I can click on the generate button, and it prompts me to, you know, put in some additional criteria. Like I want to look at the June reconciliations. I want to look at the functional currency bucket, the accounting rate type. And you may not have to key in all of the criteria, but I just want to fill this out to make the report somewhat short. Go with USD and then the high risk items. So I can generate that and look at the spreadsheet. So this should produce a quick and dirty balance sheet by account type report for me. So it's a nice report. It's very easy to modify reports if you need more, you know, custom reporting done. It's very easy to take an existing report and kind of build one and fashion it to what you need. So that's basically the reporting. Don't save. So let's take a look at the home page again. What else do we have? We have the Academy is a good resource to go to if you're a new user. There's some very short videos here that can get straight to the point for any type of activity that you're looking to do, like preparing a reconciliation. Here's a short video on kind of walking you through the basics of how to do that. So this top section is really based or really geared towards the new user or the user type. Now the bottom section is more for the admins who really need to get into, you know, how to configure different things that are needed in the process. So you can come down here and see videos. You can learn more and get into the actual documentation to learn more about the various setup criteria. Okay. Let's take a look at, we kind of talked about the what the admins do. Another area that admins typically will work out of is here under applications. At the start of a period, the admin will come here and let's see. You'll notice that there's folders here at the bottom. The yellow folders are basically periods that are now closed. And the green folders, your open period or the current period that we're in. These action ellipses or icon here will give you the ability to change the status of that. So the admin would come in here at the the current month, the new reconciliation cycle, and start the process by clicking on the status option here. So this can be done manually, or it could also be done via a process script that kicks off on a schedule. So that's the periods. Another thing is profiles. Profiles is, as I mentioned earlier, one of those key components along with the format. The profile really represents the master set of, I guess like the reconciliation basis is on the profile and the format. And so these identifiers represent individual reconciliations that could be created each month. So this company code 101, account 11101 would be a unique, become a unique reconciliation. Here in the profile list, you can do, again, you have the ability to do searching across thousands of reconciliation or profiles rather, and find the particular profile that you want to work with. So it has a lot of the same features. You can add filters, and select by format and so on. So again, the same sort of features that you've seen in the list are available here. Clear it this way. Okay. One of the things I didn't mention in the earlier list are you can actually make this view more compact. So you can see more on the screen by going to the compact view. Okay. Let's talk about the configuration as another area that the admin would work out of. In the configuration, you have attributes. These are both system, the ones with the lock icon next to them, or those that come sort of out of the box, system related attributes that you can make use of. You can do, set up your filtering on these. You can use them in your calculations. If you write rules to determine, auto reconciliation rules, things like that, you can make use of these system attributes, or you can create your own very easily by clicking on the plus sign. It gives you the ability to put in a new name of an attribute. Maybe it's like invoice or something like that. You're gonna want to capture the invoice number on a transaction that you set up, or a reconciling item. Perhaps you want to have that as an item, or a field that the preparer will put in some information. So that will need to become an attribute in order for you to be able to select it and use it in a profile or use it in a format. The types of attributes you can create, you can have a date related attribute, so it has to have a valid date included. You have you can have integers specifically, or a list of items, so you can just kind of give the preparer a list of options if they go to this attribute on their reconciliation. You can have a multi-line text type of an attribute. You can make it true, false, and so on, or yes, no. If you want to set up, specific types of responses that you can filter on. You don't have to guess at what they would have keyed in. It has to be one of two or one of three options, or so on. You can make it a calculated attribute. And so with a calculated attribute, you can produce numbers or produce information or change the value of another attribute with a calculated attribute. Just to kind of show you, in this example, there are some calculated attributes like this one here, days until end date. If we take a look at that, it's using a function, a date function. So there's a number of attributes or a number of functions that you can make use of to add more value to your process. And so these can be used in your filtering or in adding to a column if you want to include it in the view. So, so if I wanted to use days until end date in my reconciliations list view, I can just go here and say actions, select columns, and look for that that particular attribute. Here's my days until end date, and just move it over here to the right and click OK. And then I'll see that in my view. So you can see here I got a -10. So basically I'm past the due date, so it's counting backwards. So I look back, if I go actually into it, I'll see the end date was October 9. We're at October 19th. So it's giving me a -10 result. Okay. Yeah, jumping back into that configuration, there's some additional items I want to cover. Here we have a critical area. This is probably the one thing you want to start off with and get a good handle on. Excuse me. The profile segments is a key thing that you need to get nailed down before you build anything else in your application. You need to understand how you want to construct the unique identifier for your reconciliations. You can keep it very simple, like in this case, you have a company code and an account, or you can have a company code, account, and cost center. You can have any number of segments, but the key here is to keep that at a minimum, because it really adds to the complexity of the application if you go too far, too deep into the segments. A good rule is to try to keep it between 5, like 5 to 8 at most. Certainly under 10, you don't want to go beyond that. A new thing that was added recently is this sub-segment. So you don't have to, like in this particular example that we'll see later, is there's a 13,000 series account. And we don't want to identify each one of those accounts that are in the 13,000 series. We want to reconcile them all as a group. So basically, we can define that as a subsegment. So all of them can fall under or be mapped to one specific account, like a 13XXX. And the detail will be available for viewing, but everything can be basically reconciled under one reconciliation document. So that's a really good thing to have in place if you want to go that route. Another system attribute is process. So this gives you the ability to delineate between balance sheet type of reconciliations versus those that are used for flux analysis or variance analysis. So that just gives you a way of slicing and dicing reconciliations, looking at them by different process tracks. Another thing that's totally customizable are the risk ratings. So you can go with the standard ones that come with the system, the high, medium, low, or you can go with anything else that you'd like. You can add or modify to this particular list however you wish. Frequencies is something that you can rename as well. You can make it daily, monthly, quarterly, or some other setting. But basically, this is used as a trigger in the when you set up your periods, basically to indicate when reconciliations will be created for a particular profile. So that's how that will come into play. But I'll show you that a little bit later. Account type is another reporting type of attribute, system attribute that you can construct. Essentially, you can create your account hierarchy or structure. organization there. So it gives you the ability to, again, in that, the lists, reconciliations list, the ability to select certain account types and see them all grouped together. So if I wanted to look at, something maybe beyond the format designation, maybe total assets, I can choose that, and all of these types of accounts will roll up into total assets, and I'll get a summary view of the balance for total assets or total liabilities or equity or so on. Aging profiles, you can designate the breakout however you wish. Again, this is something that you can use in your filtering to look at things that have transactions that are falling into these various bands. So these are system attributes that you can set up initially when you start to create your application. Let's jump right into creating a profile. You know what? Before I do that, let me show you what a format looks like. I mentioned earlier how you have these various formats that are basically account types. So if we look at accounts payable is what it uses the balance comparison method of doing the reconciliation. So in this tool, there's two different methods that are used. Either the balance comparison, where you're comparing one balance to another balance, whether that be like a general ledger versus subledger, or you're doing account analysis, where it's you're looking at the general ledger balance versus reconciling items, or basically a list of transactions that explain that general ledger balance. So that is part of this format setup. So it really kind of drives the way the computational component of the reconciliation document is displayed. So basically you have these very standard computational groups. You have things that you can include in that view or hide. So in this particular setup, it's only going to show you the beginning balance. I'm sorry, you're hiding the beginning balance and you're hiding the net activity, and everything else is within either on a tab or a column or in the view. So this is sort of setting up that the math or how the balances are displayed within the reconciliation. So you basically look at that by the summary, as well as the like your adjustments. In your adjustments, you can have various columns that are included in the view, so you can add to this list. But these are your standard columns that will be displayed when you're looking at adjustment items. You'll get the transaction date, short description, long description. You can include all of this along with additional columns of information. So that's for the source system side versus the subsystem side. So you can have a different set of columns viewable there if you'd like. The next section is a place where you can put in the way in which you will be doing reconciliations or the instructions for the users. You can add additional attributes. You can have specific questions for the preparer and the reviewer, and you can set up specific rules for how this account, could potentially be auto-reconciled or prevent reconciliation. There's a number of different things that you can take advantage of. You can do, you send email if certain conditions are met, or you can set an attribute value. So there are different rules that can be set up on these accounts specifically this way. Okay, so that's what a format looks like. Let's go to creating a profile. So again, under application, we have profiles. Here's my profile list. If I want to create a new profile, if I wanted to do it manually, I could just simply put in the profile segment. And this has to be aligned with your GL accounts. It has to be a valid GL account. So we'll go with that and give it a name. So the asterisks basically are required. So I just want to call this my test. So I want to put this in the balance sheet process cycle, and I want to put it in a particular organization. Let's choose North America, and let's give it a high risk rating. So you've seen how all of these attributes are coming into play. The format that I'm going to choose for this item is, let's go with bank reconciliation format, which is balance comparison. I click on OK, and you see how balance comparison comes in as the method for that bank reconciliation. And I want to make this a debit as a normal balance. So this is just something that will trigger an alert if a balance comes in that's a credit. Here is a quick and dirty way of setting up an auto reconciliation. So if the balance is typically 0 and there's no need to do a reconciliation in that particular case, you can have it automatically reconcile. So it's out of view. It's not something that's in the work list for the preparers. So they can just focus on the things that require some attention. But I'm not going to choose that here now. But another thing you can set is the maximum age limit for any reconciling items that are added to explain a balance or to set up an adjustment. So if it's beyond a certain, date or day limit, you can have that alert flag that, and it's not going to stop anything. It's just going to raise an alert that management can filter on and bring up in a report. And this section down here, manually enter balances, typically you might use that in your early stages where you're testing, but what you want to do is make sure that you have a systematic approach to load data where users don't have the ability to manipulate balances. They're going to come in systematically for you. So there's very few reasons where you would want to use these options to enter balances directly. Okay, again, here in the profile, you have the ability to put in instructions, but I would rely on the format if it's something that's common across this particular type of account. For bank reconciliations, just let that be inherited from the format. So you'll see the instructions here when you open up the reconciliations that are basically coming in from the format. Workflow is a place where you can designate who's responsible for this reconciliation. So I'm going to make it for myself. And you want to set the frequency on which this account will be reconciled. So make it monthly. You want to set the schedule from, which is what the start and durations are going to be kind of driven off of. So if I wanted to make it the end of the month, I'll just set that to end date. And so the cycle will start. I can make it start on the end date, or I can make it start, one day after, or I can make it start, 2 days before the end date. So this is basically going to kind of drive when reconciliations will begin. I want to give the preparer of this reconciliation, say 5 days to complete the reconciliation. So that's what the duration is for. If I want to set up a reviewer for the rec, I'll go ahead and add that person or persons or team. So I'll make it a team of individuals. Okay, so that is set. And go ahead and you basically want to do it on a monthly basis, or you could potentially have it reviewed on a quarterly basis. So it can be different from the preparer's frequency. And you want to give the reviewer a few days to conduct the review. So that's going to be in total 8 days from the end date when everything is due. Okay. Next, you want to set up the currency buckets. This basically, if you have a multi-currency organization, You have the ability to enter transactions, adjustments, and such in the local currency, and the system will translate that for you into functional and reporting. So these defaults, basically for entered, you can enter any currency for the default or for the entered currency bucket, and it will accept it. The default just needs to be set initially. But if you have a USD functional, it will translate that to USD. And or if you have a euro that you're entering and it needs to be translated to GBP and then USD, that will happen as a result, of entering data in the entered bucket. That will calculate automatically for you. Now, the actual balance from the GL will need to be entered into each one of these buckets because we want the balance directly from the system. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this as functional. And access, I typically would set up like access for commentators and viewers, like management would go here, or an auditor team could potentially be in one of these. You can set this up by organization. You don't have to do it at the profile level. So I would put it at a higher level. That would be best practice. You can add additional attributes to capture information on this profile. Again, the format may be a better place for that. And again, also with the rules, you can put custom or specific rules at the profile level, but you can also inherit those rules from the format. Okay. So I've completed all of the information for the profile, and now I can create a reconciliation off of this profile. So I can go here and select actions, create reconciliation for the June period. And I'm just going to do it for that new one I created because the rest of these are all already there. I'll apply that. And it's running it right now. Okay, so it says one profile was successfully copied into reconciliation. So actually both the format object and the profile object come together to form the reconciliation. So I can go and look for that new reconciliation in the reconciliations list. So go back over here. And here's my new profile that is now a reconciliation. Of course, there's no data for it because I made it up. But basically, this is the reconciliation document. So if I wanted to take a look at one that does have some information, let's take a look at one that is like a prepaid expense, for example. And here's a reconciliation using the account analysis method, where you have an ending balance and you have balance explanations. So if I click on this link, it actually is tied to this link up above, which has 84 explanations in it. If I click on either one of these, it will take me to the same place. You'll notice the top, it has the actual account name and the period. You have the ability, you see the total unexplained difference here across the top and at the bottom here. Down at the bottom, you have this graphic showing period by period for the past, the last 12 months of the year, the individual reconciliations. So I can click on these, it'll take me to a prior reconciliation. I can see, what was done for that. And over here on the right is kind of a summary of, who's the preparer. It could be a team. In this particular case, it's a team of people. I can claim it, basically take ownership of it as a team member, and it shows my name now next to that. It shows the due date. It shows the end date. This is, test system or a demo system, so the dates are everything's late. But it shows you the top 3 attachments. You can have several other attachments that are visible over here in the drawer. If I pull the drawer, I'll see that there's these attachments. There could be more. You can also have attachments associated with the individual records that are making up the balance explanations. So you can see those here as well. You can see comments. It always shows you the top 3 attachments, the top 3 comments. You can see any additional comments that were made over time here. You can look at the information coming directly off of the profile. You got the name, the account ID, the descriptions, what type of normal balance it is, what type of account, and what process and everything that comes straight off of the profile. You can see your instructions for the user. It could have a link to a web address or a file server to give you more information. You can see the workflow. So it goes from me to a reviewer. It shows you any alerts. You can have questions set up. So the preparer, before they finish, they might have a requirement to complete these questions and answer them before it goes to the reviewer. And the reviewer may have a different set of questions that they have to answer before they can actually approve things. So you have that ability. You can look at more than 12, like here in the graph, you can go back as far as 12, but here you can have the complete history to look at, prior consolidations or prior reconciliations rather. And I think I might be close to time. Do we have any questions at this point?
It looks like there are a few in the Q&A, Courtney.
Oh, okay. Okay, I have a question from Susan. Can we reconcile a handful of accounts in USD? I don't know if I totally understand that question. I think the answer is it really depends on how you set up that your process. So if you have a multi-currency setup, you could potentially load that data directly into the functional currency bucket and leave the entered currency bucket empty. And that might be what you're trying to do there rather than go through the entered bucket. So yeah, in that particular case, you could do just a load directly in USD for a handful of accounts. Maybe you do it that way that month, and the next month you might have you might want to upload multiple currencies and take it through the entered currency bucket, which would translate those balances for you for functional, and if you're using reporting, it'll come through to reporting as well. So you can start wherever you would like, but I would think you would want to stay consistent, but the system won't prevent you from doing that. You would be able to load data directly into the functional bucket. I have another question. If balances occasionally change very insignificantly in cents, ARM opens up already closed reconciliations. Is there a way in ARM to set rounding or threshold somewhere, or should the minor changes in second or third digit be handled in the source system or FDMEE? You can have, in that profile setup, there was the ability to have it auto reconcile if it's within a certain percentage tolerance or dollar tolerance. So that could be one method in which you could maintain or keep those particular items closed so that they don't keep opening with small penny changes. That might be one way to approach that. Do we have any other questions?
That appears to be it.
Okay. Great, great.